Good eye, that creepypasta. Whoa, creepypasta 134. You know why I say creepypasta, guys? You know why? Because of my name. I have 3 E's. So, what am I gonna do? So today I'm gonna be searching up creepy pasta. Just search up that. See what comes up. Okay. Ford. Okay. Fortnite creepypastas. Should I watch that? Part 2. Part 1 is there. So, uh,
Creepypastas are typically terrifying legends or images that have circulated their way around the internet. They're the modern-day scary campfire stories told on a much larger, more accessible platform, which makes them pretty creepy. Whether or not they're rooted in fact or fiction is entirely up to you. These days, it seems like any big part of pop culture has their own set of creepypastas, including video game sensations the likes of Fortnite. So today, we are taking a look at the top 10 creepypastas that have popped up concerning the game, with our list of the top 10 scary Fortnite creepypastas. And warning, some of these are just flat out kind of crappy. You expect they're creepypastas.
I don't know if this is the mic or not, but it's definitely.
And at number 10, Followed. From YouTube channel Flip the Script, Followed is a story about a gamer who used Fortnite to help with his mental health since he got into an accident and almost died. He keeps seeing a rabbit with a ski mask who keeps paying him a visit whenever he plays the game. The rabbit talks to him and tells him that he will never cheat death again because of the accident. He thinks that his mother keeps letting the bunny man in, but she tells him that he's just seeing things. So one Friday night, he plays a solo match and notices that everyone in the pregame lobby has the same default blonde guy skin. He ignores it, thinking he's in a server with a bunch of noobs. The match begins, he lands at Tilted Towers, and apparently so does everybody else on the server. Also weird. He grabs a loot chest and scores a scar, and then starts taking out foes. He begins to suspect that they're all bots. Their names are Default Fortnite Player with the number. Every time he gets a kill, another player named Frank also gets a kill, the only one without the default name. Finally, it gets down to just him and Frank, and that's when the player realizes who Frank is. It's the Bunny Man, but in the game. He tries to take Frank out, and that's when he hears the demonic voice say, "I dare you to kill me." He keeps missing Frank and is soon out of ammo. Before he can switch weapons, though, Frank appears in person and says out loud, "I dare you to kill me." The player then dies of a heart attack. And at number 9, the bus driver.
That's nice.
From Flip the Script, this one is...
That's just amazing. This is a quick video, but I'm gonna try to explain it. So basically, what just happened was basically the bunny skin in Fortnite. Basically, he almost died. So in real life, he almost died. The guy that was playing. So what happened was, so he went, okay, whatever, I give up. So I'm gonna go back into Fortnite, right? So he saw a whole lobby of blonde noobs, blonde default. So he thought, oh, it's just all noobs. Who cares? Probably all just bot. So then he got a scar from a loot chest, which is, I don't think it's important, but okay. So then he's like, I don't know if it was purple or gold, but he got a scar. And so he's like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and see. So it was him and Frank. So Frank was a bunny guy that was killing him. That basically said he can't cheat death anymore. So basically the bunny guy was creepypasta. Because like he says you can't cheat death anymore. And basically, so what happens is, so he's basically running around killing these noobs, like default the bot number like 1 or 2. It's just like numbers. And then Frank comes. He tries to see. I think he sees the skin. Frank was home with another skin, and let's just say he said, "I dare you to try and kill me." He did, but soon he ran out of ammo, and he died in real life of a heart attack. This is amazing. I don't even know. I've never heard these. Hold on, guys. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had to go check on something. So,
the bus driver, and is about as scary
the bus
Easter
driver
egg. The
up
player
there.
in this story heard a rumor on Reddit about the battle bus, an Easter egg you can only see on Friday the 13th. In order to see it at the start of the match, on that date, don't get out of the battle bus. Stay until you're about to get kicked off, then unplug your router. Plug it back in and do not find a new game to join, and you'll be still on the bus. So the player's like, yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. And it works. Except it's not what they expected. The bus doesn't go over the map, but rather it goes through a passage of time. Events throughout history play on the screen in front of him. Then he sees the future. He sees World War III break out, there's a nuclear fallout, and he sees his family members die. Time flashes forward again, and he sees himself trying to survive with other war survivors. A missile drops down from the sky and kills him. He's then kicked off the bus, and is pretty traumatized. And at number 8, Disappearing Teddy. The disappearing teddies are...
That's, I don't believe. First one? Maybe. First one I kind of believe.
Nothing new in Fortnite.
Disappearing Teddy.
A lot of people in the past, but generally they're kind of cool. But this creepypasta makes them a little bit more weird than most of us would like. So the player in this story is going through the motions of a regular match when he finds a box with the name Lucy on it. Opening it, he finds a rusty key and a diary. He reads the diary. It's about a 10-year-old girl named Lucy who, in the first entry, writes that it's her birthday and that she's excited that her father took the day off work to spend it with her. She also knows that her mother recently passed away. The player decides to keep reading in hopes of figuring out what the key is for. The girl continues to write about how her father grows increasingly distant and how she was forbidden to go down to his laboratory. The last entry in the journal reads that she is going to go down into the lab with her teddy bear. The player starts to look around the house and finds a cellar door in the backyard. The key opens it. The player then notices a burlap bag on the ground with a locket that reads "Best Mom Ever." There's also a big torn up teddy bear. The player continues to search the cellar, going through another door which has claw marks along the side of the wall. The player then finds a skeleton with a pistol next to it and a camcorder. The camcorder turns on and starts to play. It's the dad panicking about the mother hearing animalistic noises in the background. The player begins to leave the cellar when he notices that the teddy bear that was there when he entered is now gone. Oh, spooky.
Well, that's nice.
This one tells of a kid named Bill whose parents left for the night. The babysitter hadn't shown up yet, so he went to his room to play some Fortnite. He starts a match, and everyone on his team had the Dark Knight skin on. All of a sudden, the lights in his house shut off. Bill goes to find a flashlight, but a notification pops up on his screen from an anonymous user that reads, "Why'd you do that?" Bill was confused. He goes downstairs and locks the front door. But then he hears a knock. He opens the door, and no one is there, except there's a letter. He reads it, and the words on it repeat, "Don't lock, don't look," over and over again. But the very last word on the letter says, "Hide." Bill freaks out and hides under his bed. That's when he feels air on the back of his neck. He rolls over and sees a bunch of pairs of red eyes behind him. Bill then disappeared from that day onwards, and his parents never found his body. And at number 6, the empty lobby.
That's just weird. Oh, okay. I guess these are quick, so hopefully paying attention.
She liked to use the battlehound skin and thought of it as a lucky charm. She would often get...
So pretty much for the battle bus one, basically he went on out front of the Strategic, saw a Reddit one, and let's just say he saw the future and he died and stuff. It's so creepy, kind of.
A solid amount of kills and plagues in it. There's also a mention of gonorrhea in this story, but we'll just kind of skip over that part. Anyway, the skin started taking a life of its own and wanted all of the strippers' attention. And one night, when she returned home at 4 a.m. and booted up the game, the lobby was entirely empty. Her character wasn't there. Thinking it was a glitch, she restarted her system and the game. But the lobby was still empty. So she started the game anyway, and her character wasn't there. Just a view of the pregame lobby and other players in the game. So she shut it off again, decided to play again in the morning. But in the morning, the game kept crashing. In her headset, she could only hear growling. The next day after work, she got home and put on her headset. The growling continued. But it wasn't just coming out of her headset this time. It was in her room. She opened her closet and there was the battle hound. 2 days later, she was found dead in her apartment. And at number 5, supply llamas. This one is about a player who finds a llama in the game. Immediately after, he gets a message from a user named Skullkiller369 asking if he wants to get more supply llamas. But there's a catch. The player must agree to give Skullkiller his soul as a trade. The player obviously doesn't take him seriously, so he agrees. Skullkiller369 then tells him in order to do so, he can never turn off the game. The player says, yeah, sure. From then on out, the player starts finding supply llamas in every match. During one game, he and his friend decide to reset their match, and the player restarts the game on his system. He turns the system back on, and he's already in a new match. He then finds a different kind of llama, a red and black one instead of the purple and blue one. He opens it, and there's no supplies. But there is a note. He reads the note, and it says, "I told you, and you don't listen." The player freaked out, turns the system off for the night. The next day, he finds more llamas, 3 of them, all with the same note. The player then goes to find his dad to show him how well he's doing. And then his dad looks at him and asks, "What are you doing in my house?" He doesn't recognize the player at all. The long and short of this story, well, everyone knew that he was good at the game, but his family didn't know who he was afterwards. Yeah, we didn't say all these were perfect horror stories, now did we? And at number 4, Red Team Leader. Another creepypasta from from Script. This one is about a player who buys the Cuddle Team Leader skin from the Fortnite shop, seeing that the skin was only available for an hour and on sale. But when he uses the skin, the color isn't pink. It's blood red in the pre-game lobby. He thinks it's a glitch. The match starts and the skin is back to its regular pink. But after the player starts to kill people, the skin starts to turn red. Faintly, but it's there. The more players he kills, the darker the red becomes. Eventually, he's one of the last 10 people in the match. After a solid firefight, he's one of the last 2, and goes after his remaining opponent. But as he takes him out, the player goes down, which is weird since it's a solo match. He shoots the player again. Nothing happens. The player's just down. That's when his controller in real life starts to move. His avatar also starts to move on the screen. The avatar takes out an axe called the chopping block and begins to chop off the enemy's head, decapitating him. The Cuddle Team Leader avatar removes his mask, revealing its head. One eye shot out of its head and slits on its face, forcing a smile. Then the game ends. Up next at 3, the storm. The storm tells the story of a terrifying storm experience during a storm match.
That is beautiful.
The player in this one is going about their business, taking out foes when they realize that the storm is about to close in on them. Except it's no regular storm. This one is red with mist. So the player runs heading towards the safe zone but can't quite get there. He gets caught in it. As he keeps navigating his way towards the safe zone, still hopeful, images start appearing in the storm. Horrific ones. Ones that shouldn't be in the game. His body in real life starts to itch. He starts to feel actual pain. So he decides to keep running in the game, heading towards what he thinks is a launch pad. His character's health gets to 30. His body in real life begins to break out into hives. As he gets to the launch pad and flies off, his health is at 20. His vision starts to get weird, and his health falls to 10. And the player starts to lose feeling in his body. This is when he breaks out into the safe zone and all of his symptoms disappear in real life. So, of course, he quits the game and hasn't played Fortnite since. And at number 2, we eliminated you. In this creepypasta posted and beautifully drawn by Jordan Persegatti, we get the tale of We Eliminated You, one of the more popular Fortnite creepypastas that have made the rounds on the interwebs, initially created by 34 Matthews HD. Anyway, it's the story of a kid who hops on Fortnite after school one day when his mother hasn't gotten home yet. Everyone in the pregame lobby is wearing the Cuddle Team Leader skin, noticing a creepy theme. Once he gets into the match, he realizes that everyone's username is We Eliminated You, which is weird because you can't have the same name as everyone else on the PlayStation Network. So he assumes that the server was filled with hackers. He ends up making it into the top 3 and watched the last remaining 2 players duke it out, waiting for the victor to surface so he could just take them out with a shotgun. As he was waiting, he notices that there's a structure built nearby. It reads, We eliminated you. Freaked him out, but he still ignored it. Eventually, the 2 Cuddle Team leaders who were duking it out are finished, leaving one remaining foe. The player popped out of his hiding spot and shot him in the head. But it didn't faze his opponent, so he shoots him again. Nothing happens. The player assumed it was a hacker. Eventually, the hacker shot him and knocked the player out of the match. Frustrated, he turned off his PS4 annoyed. He decided to go get some fresh air, but before he leaves his house, he gets a text. It's from a number he didn't recognize, and it read, Get ready for your final elimination. But what was worse was the photo attached to the text, an image of the player's house. The player panics and locks himself in his bedroom. He calls the police, and while waiting, he looks at the window, where he spots a mysterious figure watching him, and they're wearing the Cuddle Team Leader mask. He hides in his closet as he hears the mysterious figure come through his back door. As he's hiding, his phone goes off and makes a noise. He panics, thinking that his cover's blown, and looks at the phone. He sees that he's gotten a text from that same number saying, I know you're in there. And last but not least, and at number 1, the Whisperer, which is kind of a similar story to the last one we just did. This one tells the story of a boy named Timmy whose parents go to town to visit his sick aunt. Home alone, he messages his pal Mark, his neighbor, to come over and play Fortnite. But Mark wasn't around, so he hopped on the PlayStation communities to find a partner. He finds a post by a user named BattleBus524, who wrote him, I'm the best Fortnite player of all time. I can carry you. Might need it. Not being overly great at the game, this piques Timmy's curiosity. But he was a bit concerned since the player spelled Fortnite as Fortnite, N-I-G-H-T. He reaches out anyway, and the guy's name is Drew, a 31-year-old dude who lives fairly close to where Timmy lives. They start playing together, and Drew gets killed immediately. Timmy jokes about it, and Drew got really aggressive with him. The more that they played together, Drew started blowing things up recklessly and compromising their matches, and getting killed off really quickly. Drew would whisper to Timmy in his headset, behind you, even though no one was behind Timmy. So eventually Timmy got annoyed, made up an excuse to leave Drew, and blocked him. He then started going on solos. A few minutes later, a random user sends him a voice message. Timmy opens it, and the voice says, you shouldn't have done that. I recommend you don't block me again. A little bit freaked out, Timmy decides to ignore it. 20 minutes later, Drew sends him another message. This time, it wasn't a voice.
Okay, hold on, guys.
Timmy freaking out.
So he basically just saw him emerging with a front door.
And there's a note there with a note attached to it. The note reads, "It reminds me of you." It was Timmy's favorite skin to use in the game. Timmy calls the cops and messages his friend Mark, who tells him that he was right to message him. He saw a guy in the bushes out front of Timmy's house. Timmy goes to hide in his parents' closet when he remembers that he didn't lock the back door. That's when he hears the door creak open. Timmy panics and keeps texting Mark, who tells him to be quiet.
Hold on. Okay, I'm back.
He didn't lock the back door. That's when he hears the door creak open.
So he didn't.
Panics
Oh
and keeps
no.
texting Mark, who tells him to be quiet and not make a sound. He hears someone moving around the house, whispering, "I just want to play games." 10 minutes go by, and Mark starts to worry that he hasn't gotten a response from Timmy for all of his last messages. Finally, he does get a message from Timmy, though, and Timmy says that one of their neighbors knocked the guy out. Mark asks if Timmy wants to come over and spend the night at his house to feel safer. The response he gets back reads, "Come over. I want to play Fortnite." In other words, Timmy's dead, Mark. All right, there we have it, friends. Well, most of those were pretty stupid. Which of these creepypastas do you think might actually be true, though? Or do you think they're all just full of it? Probably, yeah. Give us a shout about your thoughts and those. Now, if you dug this video,
interesting.
And make sure you click on subscribe if you want to hang out with us some more.
That's interesting.
And gaming in general on our channel. So be sure to get that playlist on your screen right now. Click. In the meantime, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll catch you all in the next video.
So let's do number 2. I'm gonna do all of them. Okay.
Fortnite may be the biggest current gaming sensation taking the world by storm, but there's a darker side to
Hold on, guys.
creepypasta.
Okay, I'm back. So,
Legend. But
number 2, here we go.
many other games, the fever and quality that goes into these
Okay, so
stories
here we
is
go.
unparalleled. So, back by
So
popular demand, we're
unparalleled.
returning to our list of the top 10 Fortnite creepypastas. With a part 2, we'll be seeing
Part
some
2.
familiar storytellers on this list from our part 1, but with brand new creepypastas to give you the shivers. Also, be sure to check out their YouTube channels after you watch this video for other good creepypastas too. But in the meantime, let's get into our list.
So
And number 10, Rage Quit. This creepypasta comes from YouTuber Flip-the-Script, who's pretty much the king of Fortnite creepypastas on YouTube. We featured a few of their other creepypastas in our last video too, so be sure to check them out at some point. Anywho, this creepypasta is about a player who decided to hop on duos with a stranger when all of his friends were away on vacation. Wanting to play with someone who had their mic on, he almost left the game when finally his new partner said, "Hello?" It was a young child, and while a protagonist normally plays with older players, they actually mesh up really well, managing to knock out 2 other duos right from the get-go. That's when he hears the kid politely say, "Just a second," to someone in the room with him. The protagonist asks if the kid's talking to his parents, but the kid says, "No, it's my guardian." The kid then proceeds to tell him that it's his guardian angel. The protagonist tries to shrug it off as the kid having an active imagination, but as the game progresses, the kid keeps talking to his guardian angel, and it gets a little weird. It sounds like things are being thrown around the kid's room in the background. So the protagonist asks if everything is all right over there, and the kid replies, "Yeah, she just doesn't like it when I don't listen, but I'm getting off after this game." 5 minutes go by and he hears the kid say, "I told you I'm going to get off after this game." The protagonist then hears something chilling. A voice replies to the kid in the background saying, "Now, now, 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 now," growing more and more sinister with each word. The kid's character in the game starts to lag and glitch, and then the player hears the kid crying. Then out of nowhere, the kid is disconnected from the party, from the game, and from Xbox Live. The player tried to message the kid a few days later on Xbox Live, but never got a reply. Up next, number 9, The One That Crawls. This creepypasta from YouTuber O1G tells of a player who was playing Fortnite and started getting weird chills while playing. Playing Fortnite on a daily basis, the protagonist used to be a really good player, the best in his friend group, until he started getting these weird chills, and this itch that would go up and down his neck and feel like it was burrowing into his skin. To the objective eye of all of his friends and parents in real life, nothing was there, but the player kept feeling it. It started ruining his focus on the game. His friends didn't believe him and started to tease him for how he was becoming crappier at Fortnite. 2 weeks later, as this continued, he took a week off playing the game. The itching stopped entirely. A week after that, he returned to the game and everything went back to normal. The crawling and itching were entirely gone, so the player brushed it off. But then something weird started happening when he and his friends would take down other players. A glitch of sorts. As they shot players and they dropped to the ground and started crawling, their heads would start turning around and going upside down. It was very odd. He didn't think much of it at the time, but a week later, one of his friends, who was in the match with him, started getting an itch similar to the protagonist's. It was as if this itch was contagious, and if you kept playing Fortnite while having this itch, you would share a similar fate to those who had seen crawling. That's where the creepypasta ends, unfortunately. But one can only imagine that those who get the itch and continue to play endure a terrible fate, with their own heads twisting backwards like their characters in the game. Up next at 8, AFK. This one is from Flip-the-Script. Another one. This creepypasta is about a player's friend going AFK, away from keyboard, during a game of Fortnite. The protagonist's friend, Andrew, was hilarious to play Fortnite with. Although he had a tendency tendency to go AFK. This was towards the end of Season 3, and our protagonist noticed an extra challenge that they hadn't completed called AFK. The description of the challenge read, follow the sign in Greasy for something that will knock you out of your seat. Our protagonist and Andrew made a point of landing in Greasy Grove to complete the challenge, although they noticed that there weren't a lot of other players landing there, which was odd, considering it was part of the challenge. They see the sign on one of the buildings outside to discover a note that read, go to Snobby Shores and get a single kill. So they follow those instructions. When they get there, they manage to find a duo and knock them out. 2 identical messages then pop up over those defeated players amongst their loot that reads, acquire 666 amount of wood and make a 1x1 fort with the materials. Unsure if a building that high was possible, the 2 of them started collecting wood and built the fort. After building it, they realized that the stairs they had built had disappeared, now replaced with a sign that read, jump down. Worried that if they jumped down, they would die, our protagonist asks if Andrew wants to go first. Andrew jumps down, and after a few seconds, it says he needs to be revived. Over the mic, our protagonist tries talking to Andrew, but gets no response. So our protagonist thinks that maybe he's gone AFK. So instead, he gets off and starts playing some solo matches instead. This is when he notices that the AFK challenge has disappeared. The next day, he sees that Andrew is online on Fortnite. He joins his game and tries to talk to him, but there's still no response. So he starts spamming Andrew, worried that this isn't just a broken mic situation. Later, he goes into a new lobby and Andrew joins. He tries talking to Andrew, happy that he's not just AFK. But that's when Andrew's speaker turns on and a voice replies, Andrew isn't here right now. And at number 7, Season 0. This creepypasta comes from a YouTuber the name of Neo. The story follows the tale of a player who had signed up for the beta of Fortnite. Weirdly enough, after they signed up, the copy of Fortnite they got wasn't one that they downloaded online. Rather, it was delivered to their door. Excited, but ignoring the weird fact that it was delivered to their door, the player popped it into their PC to give it a go. Being a big fan of other Battle Royale games, they were a little disappointed with what they saw. Textures were all over the place, areas of the map were unfinished, and the game was full of glitches, and overall, it seemed really unpolished. But they continued to play anyway. The Season Pass section was odd too. It was stated to be Season 0, with Season 1 being withheld until the game was out in early access. But something didn't feel right about this. The skins that were in it had red eyes and looked as if they belonged to a horror game. When he started the match, the gameplay was more disturbing than a regular Fortnite game. Whenever you killed someone, you wouldn't return to the lobby. The kills were more gruesome, and there was screaming. Whenever somebody got a victory royale, a link was sent to the player and it revealed a list of winners, with comments from all of them that said they had fun while playing. These players were said to have all disappeared. The protagonist did some research after the fact. Turns out that the employee who added all of the stuff to the game was fired. Beta test was quietly and quickly removed. Up next at 6, Playground. This creepypasta is from a YouTuber named Mr. Gruesome and is about the playground mode in the game. The protagonist in the story tells about how he jumped at the chance to check out the playground mode, and when he loaded up the game and landed in Dusty Divot, he soon realized that he was the only player on the island in this particular match. Tad freaked out. He was like, hey, I'll work on my building skills, and started to harvest material. That's when he heard laughter, and it sounded like the laughter of a child. After finding some loot, he was about to leave Dusty when he heard more laughter. Turning around, he saw a default skin facing him, despite being the only one in the match. The default skin started acting strangely, running towards the player. So the player pulled out their green pump and shot the default skin right in the head, but it did nothing. That's when the skin stopped directly in front of the player, and in a demonic voice it said, leave and never return, or else. Immediately afterwards, the player's PS4 and TV shut off on its own. In at number 5, Tomato Head Terror. This creepypasta dives into the hypothetical history of one of the locations on Fortnite's map. Tomato Head Terror tells the story of Tomato Man's lost head and the rivalry it had with Greasy Grove's beef boss. The rivalry goes way back, between the opposing town's pizzeria and the burger joint Durr Burger. Durr Burger expanded all across the towns of Fortnite, being adored by many, and Beef Boss enjoyed the profits that his successful chain brought him. But there was one place that he hadn't conquered, Tomato Town. The Beef Boss headed to Tomato Town to offer Tomato Head a deal, but Tomato Head declined his offer. But no matter how many offers Beef Boss made, Tomato Head would continue to reject him. So the Beef Boss plotted a different way to get what he wanted. He decided to destroy Tomato Town and Tomato Head, burning the town to the ground. They dragged Tomato Head out of his burning pizzeria and decapitated him. Beef Boss then displayed his head as a trophy, as a warning to anyone who wanted to compete with his restaurant. Don't try. In at number 4, Lying Within. We actually covered one of these videos by Jordan Persicati in our last video. Essentially, there's a narration of a creepypasta while he draws a Fortnite-themed illustration that is absolutely brilliant. Anywho, in this creepypasta, which was inspired by the Raven from Fortnite as its creepy antagonist, this one is about a high school kid who tells about him and his friends going on a trip together after high school. They all bonded over online gaming, particularly Fortnite. One of his friends named Bridget he had originally met on World of Warcraft, and she showed him the ways of the game, which is how they formed a bond. Turns out that the two of them went to the same school, and the summer after graduation, the protagonist, Sean, Bridget, and their two friends, Ryan and Elise, ended up taking a road road trip to an abandoned mansion as a big final hurrah before they all parted ways to go to university. As they were grabbing lunch just outside of the town with the mansion, a crazy old man approached them and started shouting, "There's more than brick and mortar in them walls." Once they got into the old house, they were in awe of its immensity and eeriness. Sean snapped some photos as they broke into the boarded up house. Inside the house, it looked as if it was 100 years old. The group split up and Sean found a piano. He sat down at his bench to discover the piano still worked, so he played a few keys. His playing was interrupted by one of his friends, Elise, screaming as she almost fell off the balcony. He ran over to her and Elise told them that someone had tried to push her off that balcony. They decided it was time to leave, but before going, Sean wanted to snap a few more pictures before they headed out. Going upstairs, he snapped some more photos and went into the bathroom to grab a few pictures. Looking up from his camera, he spotted a shadowy figure, which appeared
Oh, damn, man. CTV, okay.
out of nowhere. Freaked out, Sean called out to his friends, hoping that it was just them. But as he backed up towards the other side of the bathroom, the figure started to bolt towards him. Sean turned and ran. The figure was chasing him, but he managed to make it down the stairs. Looking back, he saw the figure jump down towards the foyer, sprinting towards him. Sean made a run for it, but ended up tripping and fell down the stairs leading down to the basement. He looked up in time to see the figure at the top of the stairs and the basement door shut. The whole room was dark as he heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Then, his camera, which had landed a few feet away from him, flashed. He reached forward and looked at its screen, which revealed the last photo. It was Sean holding his hands up to block the flash from his eyes, and behind him were hands reaching out for him. And Elise's body was jutting out from the brick wall in the background. The old man who had been in the diner before with them was also visible in the camera screen. That's when Sean heard the voice in his ear. "I told you there was more than brick and mortar in them walls." Up next, number 3, the donation. From YouTube channel Next Gen Entertainer, the donation is a tale of a player named Ricky, an ordinary guy who was having a pretty rough time in his life and was struggling to make rent each month. So as a get-rich-quick scheme, he decided he was going to try to make money off of playing Fortnite. He wanted to be like Ninja or Myth and make some cold hard cash from it. He set up a Twitch account, setting up his first stream as Ricky Plays. After about 10 minutes of streaming and no views, he received a comment from a Twitch player named Vanguard13. Thinking that it was odd since his stream had no viewers, he read it, and it said, "So you want to be famous?" He replied saying, "Hell yeah, I'd die to be famous." And the account responded immediately with a follow-up comment that said, "Remember me." Time passed. Ricky managed to get about 2,000 followers on Twitch and played every day. One day after an hour of streaming and grinding solos, he had about 87 viewers, although he never really interacted with the people watching his stream unless they donated to him. He got a notification about someone donating him $10, and attached to the donation was a comment that read, "Remember me." As soon as he read that comment, Ricky lost control of his character and was sniped from 278 meters away. His screen went to the camera of the player who killed him, and that's when things got weird. It was someone wearing the Raven skin, and the player was facing the screen, which is something that can't be done in Fortnite. The name of the player was Vanguard13. His stream then went dead. Ricky's monitor also went dead, so Ricky had to drive down to his local computer shop to pick up another. On the way there, he noticed a poster hanging outside of a store with the Fortnite Raven skin and the words, "Watch Ricky Plays." He went to the shop where the poster was hung outside and inquired about it, but they didn't know how it got there. When he brought them outside to show them, the poster was gone. From there on out, he kept seeing things written on walls that read, "Watch Ricky Plays," and kept hearing creepy laughter. When he was back home, every banner ad that he encountered online was an ad for his Twitch channel. Thinking he was being stalked, he went down to the police station. While waiting, he got to chatting with an old woman, and eventually told her all the events that he had encountered. The old woman then looked at him for a moment, smiled, and then said the words, "So you want to be famous?" Ricky burst out of the police station, but to his surprise, the world around him had changed. He was in a graveyard with the Raven, who was holding his Fortnite character's decapitated head. Ricky then woke up in a hospital bed, and the doctor had told him that he had been imagining all these horrors because of how addicted he was to playing games on his Twitch channel. Ricky eventually went home and decided to play a game of Fortnite to put his mind at ease. Seems like a great idea. A year later, Ricky was doing well. His stream had taken off, and he had made himself a good chunk of change. Never had to worry about money anymore either. One day, while he was playing Fortnite on Twitch, he was given a ton of donations, all of which were only $1. Each donation had a message, a random number with a random letter. Confused, he thanked the viewer for the donations and continued the stream. After it ended, he couldn't stop thinking about those weird donations. He went onto his Twitch account to take a look at the messages again. That's when he put them together. The message read, "So, you want to be famous?" Up next, number 2, The Rift. The Rift tells the story of a player who was super excited about Season 5 of the game. Once playing it, he fell in love with the rifts, and loved being able to run through rifts, especially when he had a bad start. It was super fun, and helped him win twice as much as he used to. One night while playing, he went over to Paradise Palms searching for a rift, but the one that he found looked a little bit different than the others he had seen. It looked more like a black hole. Thinking it was a glitch, he ran through it anyway. Except this time, rather than skydiving, he was elsewhere, a place that didn't look like the rest of the game. There was a river made out of lava, buildings were made out of bones, and there were people crying in agony. That's when he took a closer look to realize that those people were the bodies of players that he had previously killed, crying out to him. Traumatized, he tried to get away, but the dead players continued to talk to him, telling him secrets about the game and what to expect from the future. They kept repeating a date, too, followed by another date, over and over again. That's when he realized that they were saying his birthday, meaning the latter date had to be the date of his death. That's when his game crashed, since the player has desperately been looking for another rift like that one, but hasn't been able to find one since. And finally, at number 1, Disconnected. Our final creepypasta on this list is Disconnected. It tells of a player reminiscing about Season 1 and his pal CJ, who a while back had moved out of state. CJ and the protagonist were high school buddies, and their friendship flourished while playing Fortnite together, playing for hours on end. But one day, CJ just disappeared. He never returned.
So, I don't know if you guys like this. This is like Fortnite creepypastas. This is about creepypastas.
To the game, and he never replied to the protagonist on social media, and never returned his calls. The protagonist grew worried. Months went by, and there was still radio silence. One day, someone joined the protagonist's own private game, even though the player wasn't invited. So the protagonist kicked the player out and decided to go on some solos. Afterwards, he went to bed. That night, he dreamt that he was playing with CJ, who was using the Reaper skin. They won, but then the Reaper turned into CJ himself, his actual body, which was horribly decomposed. Terrified and distressed, the protagonist woke up, hoping that his dream wasn't a reality. The next day, he played Fortnite, and that odd stranger reappeared in his game yet again. When he tried to kick the player, the game wouldn't let him, so he tried to shut off his game, but his computer wouldn't shut off. Player's mic kept going off, but all he could hear was static. So the protagonist played the game anyway, and it appeared that this mysterious player was using an aimbot. As he played onwards, he saw that the player's character, the Reaper, was trying to talk. Not with his mic, but in the game, with the character's mouth moving. It looked as if he was trying to make out 3 small words, so the protagonist asked him to say it over the mic instead, but the mic was silent. Next thing they know, they're playing 2v2, and eventually, they win the game. The protagonist looked over to his partner to see that the character had disappeared from the game entirely. That's when, in real life, the protagonist felt the room he was in go entirely cold. He got a chill up his spine. He turned around from his computer, and standing there was CJ. But CJ didn't look human. He was rotting. The protagonist asked, CJ, what happened to you? CJ looked at him with a blank expression, and his mouth moved into those 3 short words. He said, "You left me." And from there, the creepypasta ended with the sound of a bloody impact, and what seemed to be a body dropping and being dragged away. Alright, there we have it, friends. Which of these creepypastas was your favorite? And out of all the Fortnite creepypastas we've counted down, which one spooked you out the most? Give us a shout in those comments below. If you haven't seen part 1 of our list, be sure to head on over to our channel and check it out too. In the meantime, Fortnite creepypastas. Who doesn't love a good scary story? Well, turns out all of you guys adore them dearly, and that's why we're back.
This is part 3 of the video. So if you guys want me to react to part 3 in another video, let me know in the comments below. I will not react to it at all. So I'm probably gonna just play some Fortnite now. Probably gonna test out the new missile because I've not seen it. I've seen one thing. It's like cool. I've seen a guy have it in the new disco mode thing. I was just playing that today. So I'll talk to you guys in another video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want me to react to number 3, let me know in the comments below. Like if you like, subscribe, consider subscribing. Hit the bell if you do subscribe. If you don't subscribe, well, I don't know. Just don't. I don't know. So I hope you do consider to I took 4 attempts at making this video because I had one where it was just like some Fortnite clips and then I was like, this is kind of boring, so I scrapped it. And I did another one with some more Fortnite stuff. I was like, it is boring. It was like 21 minutes of one whole video. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching those 2 parts. Okay, and see you guys later. Bye.